context of resource recovery from water streams. His expertise is circular economy and digitization, and Ingmar has a broad interest in system optimization. Now, at the end of 2022, he joined C-Biotech as managing director, leading the efforts to develop industrialized, sustainable, bio-based materials for the construction sector using industrial hemp as biomass. Further, he leads the business unit on phytoremediation of PFOS by means of industrial hemp combined with soil additives. And this will be the topic of today's conversation, the mission of C-Biotech in decarbonizing the construction sector and contributing to the challenge of net zero, as well as cleaning up and restoring polluted and degraded soils. Welcome, Ingmar. What an impressive bio. It's lovely to have you in On the Move podcast. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for the invite.
Lovely. Ingmar, where are you today?
I'm at our beautiful headquarters in Temse, Belgium, which is, let's say, southwest of Antwerp. That's probably the city that most people will know. That's where I'm based.
Lovely. I had the honor to actually visit you in the headquarters where you are right now. It's not too many months ago at the moment of the recording, and we'll also see that in the audio visual piece that will follow our conversation. Now, Ingmar, actually, we do have a bit of a history already. When we first met, which I believe was at the end of 2023 in Amsterdam at a conference, you were still working at the university, at the Ghent University. And I'm really, really curious, what made you leave the world of academics and why?
Yeah, that's a good question. Let me go back in time. I was appointed professor in 2008. Basically, I was in the academic world for 15, almost 20 years, and I enjoyed it very much. It's lovely. You can do a lot. You have freedom. But one thing that I missed a bit is that is the impact part. So you can have. Or typically, the way impact is measured in the academic world is like, okay, how many projects did you get? How much money did you bring in? How many PhD students? How many scientific papers did you write? And the point is that in Belgium, you can reduce your appointment, but it's only limited in time. So you can only do it for 8 years. So I was confronted with the choice, like either go back full time to academia or quit. That was basically the option. So I carefully put the pros and cons next to one another, and I've been there 15 years, so I'm like been there, done that. I want to see something else, and as I said, I want to have more direct impact, which I think in an industrial innovative setting, I think is probably going to be or to give me a better opportunity to accomplish that.
Wow, it's lovely, and yes, I think our world currently needs a lot of these impact leaders like you, because the problems that we're facing are pretty drastic. Today's topic, as I mentioned already, will be PFOS. Maybe we have some listeners who have never even heard PFOS. Would you like to take the opportunity and give us a small introduction to this extremely complex and very, very detrimental topic?
Okay, I'm not a chemist by training, but PFOS is a group name of basically thousands of molecules that are polyfluorinated chemicals, and that typically have been made for their water repellent properties. And the other property is that they are very, very, very stable, and that's why they're also called forever chemicals, because they hardly break down. that is also the reason why they have become a reason for concern, because they, like what you have also with other chemicals, is that due to the fact that they end up in the natural systems, they will accumulate there, and specifically for these ones, that is problematic. So they will end up in surface water, in soils. They can also go to the groundwater, and even though they are present in small concentrations, they're part of what we call micropollutants. They can still be very harmful, because they will also accumulate in the bodies of animals. So basically, not only humans, but also the ecology in rivers will be affected by these molecules.
And I suppose when we're saying affected, I don't know if you feel comfortable saying that, but I do know from my own journalistic research, it causes cancer. There's a gazillion of health, and we're talking about grave health impairments for humans and animal, and literally all living beings involved and connected to these forever chemicals, right?
Yeah, exactly. So kidney cancer, for example, there's indications that there's a correlation with PFAS, but also hormonal. It affects the hormonal system. It can also lead to lower immunity. So all kind of things that we don't want. And this also is related a bit to the chemical nature. They are. I will not go too technical, but they are amphiphilic. So meaning that they have, especially the longer ones, they are more hydrophobic, and so they will, for example, stick around in fatty tissues, typically like the liver or the kidneys, and once they accumulate there, they can be very harmful.
Okay. Now, there's obviously a reason why we're now on the ground on the move in Belgium. Belgium has a bit of a detrimental history when it comes down to the PFOS. There's been a huge US company that has produced all these products containing PFOS, and there was huge spills, huge contamination. And I think that was also how you originally came across starting to research this and figure out how to decontaminate or to clean it up again, right?
Yeah, exactly. So it was, I think, about 5 years ago that this scandal kind of broke loose here in the north of Belgium, ever since, people have been looking more into that. So it's not only chemical sites that produce the PFAS that typically spill them either through water or through gaseous form and atmospheric dispersion. But in the past, they were also heavily used in firefighting foams. So, everywhere where those have been used, so that's training sites, airports, military airports. So there's a lot of sites that have been contaminated, and I think we're just scratching the surface of the iceberg to see what the magnitude of the problem is. And the point is, of course, that you might think, okay, they're there in minor concentrations, but if you don't act, it basically keeps spreading. So it's better to start attacking the problem at the source. Other than like we traditionally have been doing, coming up with end of pipe solutions where you have to clean it. So and that's a bit where often a lot of time is lost now, finding the holy grail solution, and meanwhile being confronted with it, and also causing a lot of problems, because just to give you an example, in that site around Antwerp, after I think decades, they finally decided to to complete the ring road around Antwerp to solve the traffic problems. And then when they started digging, they found PFOS, and basically they had to again stop the works until they found a solution to that.
Wow. Now, let me just say this again, because I think this is crucial to understand for our audience. When we're talking PFOS and we're using this example of specifically Belgium at the moment, this is a worldwide issue. There's been many journalistic in-depth works already. Le Monde made one in all of Europe. They made a very fantastic map where you can see all of the PFOS contamination throughout all of Europe, and it is incredibly contaminated everywhere. And I think you also have numbers where, PFOS was found in the bloodstream of polar bears. So we're not really talking about just Europe or just, our, let's say, northern hemisphere countries. This has been spread everywhere. And hence it's also such a huge, I would say one of the most exciting breakthroughs that I have heard in a long time scientifically, what you found on how to clean it up. And this is what I really want to dedicate most of our time now to really talk about, because when we met in 23, this was what impressed me so much, and what made me stick with your entire story, was that you gave me a very clear comparison also in terms of money, monetarization of how much does it cost to decontaminate soil in the current, how do you call it, standard way, where it means you dig off or you excavate soil and then you have to burn it. It's a huge amount of energy that goes into it. And then, me as a climate impact storyteller, I always take the drastic visualization. What comes out at the back is pure dirt. You cannot really talk about living soil anymore that you could possibly take back on the site and start planting your vegetable garden in, because it's worth absolutely nothing. There's no more living creature in it. And that's really an issue, because that currently is the way to clean soils, as far as I understand. And what you have come up with now by using industrial hemp to actually start the cleaning process, especially with a focus on PFOS, but then also the outcome now, how fast that can go, was a pretty huge breakthrough. So please do tell us a bit more about that, and also why this is so important for the rest of the world besides Belgium.
Yeah, no, I'd like to connect with what you just said. Apart from being expensive and indeed the dirt that comes out, it's, as I said, it's not even an end of pipe solution. It's basically taking one problem and moving it elsewhere, because in the end, these soils are landfilled, and basically there they could start leaching again, and basically you're not solving the problem. But as usual, that was the best available technology, and that's why people have been using it. So what we focused on is a technique called phytoremediation, and phytoremediation is known for long time. It's basically the fact that plants are able to remove pollutants from soils, and basically they do that because they take up water for nutrients and other micro nutrients that they need. And with that, all the contaminants that are in there are also taken up. So it's not a breakdown. It's merely a transport. So they store it into their plant tissues. So that's not new. And at some point in time, we demonstrated that indeed could work. Now with PFAS, it's a bit of a complicated story because it's not just one molecule. You're not just looking at, for example, dioxin or a carbohydrate that have been proven to be removed. Here, it depends really on the chemical structure. So, as I said, it's PFAS. It's many molecules, and actually, if you talk about PFOS, the O stands for octane. So basically, meaning that it has eight carbons in the chain, and that's actually how they differentiate. So the molecular structure is more or less similar, but you start from very short chains up to very long chains. That's very important because the longer the chain, the more hydrophobic the molecules become. Hence, they become less mobile. Okay, so they will not be in the water phase. So if they're in the soil, they will stick to the organic fraction, and it will be harder or even impossible for the plant to take it out. So that is, and as I said, the longer ones are typically the ones that are more toxic. So we really need a solution for them. So in the research we did last year, we were thinking like, okay, let's play around with some additives to the soil, and mostly our train of thought was, let's make these, or let's play on the development of the plant. So we got in touch with a company that was making soil additives for the traditional cannabis industry, and those focused on increasing the germination of the plant, or speeding up, making more leaf tissue, making more roots, so that basically, so in any way that we thought, okay, that could speed up the process of the transport. And just so we tested different additives, and to be clear, those are not chemical additives; they're all bio-based additives. So it's kind of mixtures of fungi, microorganisms, and enzymes that basically are in a dormant stage. And when you add them to the field, they will start developing. To our own surprise, what we found is that indeed we found that the take-up was faster. But another interesting thing we noticed is that actually we didn't only see the transport, but we also saw indications of conversions. Why was that? Because on specific subplots, we saw that actually there were certain PFOS in the leaves of the plant that were not originally present in the soil. Okay, so they cannot just appear. That's the natural laws do not allow that. So we started digging a bit deeper into that, and came up with a hypothesis like, okay, it's probably organisms or enzymes, which in nature, fungi have been, they're actually the cleaners of nature. They clean up everything. So basically, they are able to degrade such components. And so we put up the hypothesis like, okay, they probably must break down the longer chains into shorter chains. And the shorter chains then become more available for the plant to take up. So that was was very nice hypothesis. That could potentially explain the way it was working. Of course, when you explain that to people, they're always quite reluctant towards that. But about a month ago, I found a very recent paper that was published, an academic paper, and that actually demonstrated even more than that, because when I was talking about chopping down the chain length, basically it's about breaking the carbon-carbon bond. Yeah, and energetically, this is something that people still can buy. However, in PFOS, you have a lot of carbon-fluor bonds, and they are energetically much harder to break down. But in that paper, they had isolated a microorganism that actually did this, what they call defluorination.
Okay.
So basically, they demonstrated that this was possible. And in that paper, they also put down certain pathways of how the breakdown would occur. And magically, some of the things that we had hypothesized were exactly in front of us. So that kind of confirms a bit our findings. Of course, we need to further confirm that and dig a bit deeper, because the problem also with PFOS is that analytically, so to measure the PFOS, it's still let's say the development is still ongoing. So let me explain that a bit better. So if you break down, so basically on that side, we measured 36 components, yeah, with,
Wow. Yeah.
with different chain lengths. But of course, if it breaks down into a component that you're not measuring, yeah, okay, then it's very hard to say, okay, that this is what happened. So we're going to in the next trials we're going to set up some specific trials where we will do a lot more of these measurements
Okay.
to further back that up.
Is that also an issue with how far science is in terms of what can be measured and how can it be, how can trace amounts be shown in the tests that you generate in the labs?
Yeah, exactly. So you have a lot of molecules that
Yeah.
it would be very expensive to test all of them.
Yeah.
And the other thing you're referring to is the detection limit. For certain components, so for example, for the ones shorter than 4, they are called the ultra short chains, USC. And there, the detection limits are 1 or 2 orders of magnitude higher. So basically, you need them in very high concentrations before you can actually detect them. So it's a bit of still a challenge, but of course, science is moving ahead. But again, all the observations indicate or point in the direction that eventually this is actually broken down, and that would be a game changer because if longer chains are being broken down and then can be taken up by the plant, then that's a complete game changer, and it can speed up the removal of the PFOS. And
Right.
I want to share an interesting anecdote because so the test site that we used last year, we were kind of using that as a first site. So it was actually a firefighting training site of the Belgian fire brigade, and I think we started at concentrations around 30 micrograms per kilogram of dry matter. And we didn't expect that it was going to be so successful. So we wanted to use the site this year again in a subsidized project. And at first, in the review of the project, they said, but are you sure you're gonna use those high concentrations because it has not been proven that it can work. And now the project started. They said, no, now you have to find another site because this one, the pollution level is too low. So how things can change. So, but that also brings me to, we also have to be a bit honest and transparent. So I think where we thought in the past, we can probably go to diffuse polluted sites up to 15 micrograms, we could probably now go up to 100, which is good because there's a lot of these diffuse polluted sites. And I think probably in a frame of 5 to 10 years, we can completely clean it.
Wow. Now, you have literally, how long is that ago? A month ago, published a white paper on all of this, right?
Yeah, we wrote a report, but we're actually now writing it down in a scientific publication.
Fantastic. That means probably in due amount of time, and we are doing an early pre-recording for this, so maybe by the time we actually air the real podcast, we can maybe also do a link to the scientific report or to the can we call it a white paper report that is currently available for people?
Sure, we can do that.
Nice.
I think we're planning to submit the paper in the coming weeks, and it will typically take a couple of months to get it published.
Okay, wonderful. Now, Ingmar, you, from what I read from I'll just stick to the word white paper now. From what I read there, you actually were able to speed up the process to what you thought could come out, as you just explained, by 30 times, right?
Mm-hmm. That's correct, and that is even. I mean, that's even let's say a prediction. So so basically, let me explain that a bit. So the way they calculate the speed of uptake is by what they call the bioaccumulation factor. And the bioaccumulation factor basically is the ratio of the concentration you measure in the leaves compared to the concentration that was present in the soil. Of course, they do that 1-to-1 with every molecule. But of course, if one molecule is breaking down into other molecules, okay, then probably part of that molecule will be found back in the leaf in a different as a different molecule. So if you would know all the pieces in which it broke down, and you take that up, it could be even more than 30 times.
Wow.
The 30, where does it come from? When you just do a hemp plant for PFOS, you find 0.14, which is not that fantastic. For us, we found 0.83 just for PFOS. But if you then also start including breakdown products, then you go up to factors of 2 and 3, and it could even be more. So, but
Wow.
the major important thing is that the speed or the rate at which PFOS is being removed from the soil, that is actually the most important, because that is something that is always problematic. If you just use phytoremediation, that's also an important message. It's not just planting hemp; it's combining hemp with other workforce of nature, and let them in a synergistic way clean up the mess.
Yes. Well, we certainly didn't get single-handed down into that mess to begin with, that's for sure. Now, let's speak about one thing that is always interesting for me, because I know that the hemp industry always has this separation, that almost militant separation between hemp, and then we talk about cannabis. When we say cannabis, then it gets a bit diffusion, because it could be medical cannabis, which is okay, but then we could also talk about marijuana. Both plants contain high THC levels, so that means they're intoxicating. The hempurizer, that was the soil additive that actually made that breakdown of the PFOS into smaller bits, and then also the uptake so much quicker. That was something that actually derived from the cannabis industry, right?
Well, it was a company that we that indeed has 30 years of expertise in that setting, and I think, I mean, it demonstrates that the innovations that were made there, and that's what I find always beautiful, is that you take a solution from one field and you bring it to another field, and here it was like a very close field, so it was basically a no-brainer. So I think it always boils down to being creative and use all the innovations that are around, and whether they have been developed for cannabis or who cares? I mean, if it works here, basically it serves a double purpose.
Yes, absolutely. No, and I mean, again, this is not, we're not having a legalization talk or anything here, but it is a question to me always, because oftentimes, especially in the policy, we get so tangled up in actually embracing real solutions and putting them to work. And I know you're rallying right now with a lot of the policy spaces, because that's what you have to do. Unless the policy and the laws change around making it easier to plant hemp in all countries. I mean, just because it's possible in maybe Austria, Germany, and Belgium doesn't mean that all of Europe has that same mentality, minus the rest of the world. So this is certainly an important one, because in some parts of the world, industrial hemp has not really settled in. It's simply because our European or North American strains don't really work in these countries. I'm just returning from India, from Pakistan. They have their native cannabis, but with industrial hemp, they can't really do all that much. And it's certainly worth to look at it on a global level and make sure that we open up for the full plant approach and don't continue on making these stipulations on either or, I suppose.
No, I mean, in the end, it would be ridiculous that you would block solutions by means of that. That is in the first place how industrial hemp got banned in the late 1930s. So let's just use it. Okay, I mean, it's up to the regulatory agencies to define clear boundaries or scope where you can use this or that. But just to give you an example, the fact that so, for example, here in Belgium, there is, I mean, the legislation is not very clear. There is a legislation for putting industrial hemp in open fields, but not in a covered environment, because then indeed they always think what's going on here. Whereas for us, it would be very interesting. I will just give two examples. So it could be very interesting. One, to further fine tune our solution in a more controlled environment. It would be good if we could do this in a greenhouse.
Okay.
It's not allowed, so because then we could play around with it, we could make it even better. And another example, because we have been talking now here about in situ phytoremediation. In some cases, the soil needs to be, or the land needs to be available for other purposes. So, for example, a development for construction site, for example. Okay, they cannot. So we can solve the problem. We can say, okay, we take it out and we put it maybe next to it on a terrain, and maybe we cover it, and then you can actually do ex situ phytoremediation. And actually, that idea we are going to test it this year. Resonates really well, because it will. It can potentially solve a lot of problems also, or of, let's say, downsides of you can do it, but you need the soil for 5 years. Okay, but we can deal with that in such a way. And the other advantage is, if you cover it and you have a controlled environment, you can put hemp 3 times a year, and you can increase the remediation rate by a factor of 3. So there's a lot of things. So you have to think out of the box and not let these things be a bottleneck. Yeah, and I've written this down because a couple of weeks ago we had the Flemish Minister of Agriculture here and Environment. And we put this on the table and said, please do something about it, because this is something we will also need, because otherwise, the problem's only getting bigger. So, and also here in Flanders, we do not have the capacity to continue with the traditional way of dealing with the problem. It's impossible.
Absolutely. Wow, how interesting is all of that? Now, Ingmar, looking into the near future, how are you going to bring this insight, this development, this amazing solution to the people, to the policy spaces? What is the strategy that you're going to be driving there?
Well, it's different things. So, the results of our investigation were picked up quite well. So we also did a quite targeted LinkedIn campaign. So we're going to definitely focus on, let's say, 5 to 10 spearhead or flagship projects the coming summer, where we further want to demonstrate it. Also, and with different components, because here we focused on PFOS. In the Netherlands, for example, there's another American industry that mainly got PFOA out. So we're going to focus on that, but also diversify. We have a developer that wants to check the ex situ remediation. So we're also going to work with farmers that have a problem. So we're going to diversify a bit. That's one thing. And then, also talk to stakeholders. So as I said, we've been talking to the minister here. We've been talking to the agency that is responsible for pollution. Tomorrow, I will have a meeting with the European Commissioner on this. So and last week I was in Washington, and I was talking to a senator over there, because the PFOS story in the US is just going to break loose as well. It's a matter of confirming and then rolling out at really large scale. Because once we know that and once it's confirmed, I think there will be buy-in and there will be things moving, because at the moment there is no real solution. I mean, excavating half of Belgium is not really a solution. So basically, everyone's like, looking around a bit. How are we going to take care of this? And basically, we have a standstill at the moment, but the standstill cannot continue because a lot of companies, just hit walls and cannot continue. So at some point, there will have to be breakthroughs. So that's a bit of the strategy that we want to apply at the moment.
Fantastic. Ingmar, I'm going to make sure that in the audio-visual piece that will follow now, that we're also learning a little bit more on what C-Biotech does with the hemp that has been uptaking the PFOS, because you also have an amazing solution for that. Unfortunately, our conversation is coming a bit to an end, but it's just fabulous. Thank you so much for sharing these insights, and I can only wish you the best of luck and many, many open ears and especially many hands that will take these solutions and put them to work in all of the spaces that urgently need it. Thank you, Ingmar, for joining us here, and I wish you all of the best for the mission ahead.
Yeah, thank you so much for the invite, and I hope people enjoy the content.
Absolutely. Very insightful. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Moin Moin aus Deutschland. Welcome back, everybody. It's lovely to have you back for the 10th episode of Climate Impact Storytelling. I'm Maren Krings, and I'm really glad to have you here. With this series, I share stories that reflect my deep love for this planet and humanity. And I hope each episode brings you closer to the growing community of change makers, solution seekers, and earth stewards. While I'm on the move, I find inspiration in the curious, often unexpected things I encounter. And today's story is no exception. This episode is all about soil, the very ground that feeds us, and yet one we so often damage through toxic waste and neglect. As our population grows and open clean land becomes increasingly scarce, we must find ways to heal the soil, to make it safe, healthy, and productive once again. Our journey takes us to Belgium, a small European country known for beer, chocolate, diamonds, and perhaps less famously, for some of the most polluted soils in Europe. In October of last year, I had the chance to meet with visionary scientists and entrepreneurs who are pioneering an elegant, nature-based solution, phytoremediation, using hemp plants to clean contaminated soils. Join me as we explore how this method offers hope for reversing damage and restoring our relationship with the earth beneath our feet. This story is part of the 89% project, an initiative of the Global Journalism Collaboration covering climate now. An overwhelming 89% of people worldwide care about climate change and want their governments to take meaningful action.
It's so nice that now they're like making it usable.
So it's a former fire brigade building that is in the neighborhood, and the fire brigade has left it.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, and it's in a small part outside.
This is Mieke Gewert, project leader at Sogent, Ghent's city development company. She oversees strategic urban transformations that make the city more sustainable, accessible, and community-oriented. With nearly 280,000 inhabitants, Ghent is Belgium's second largest municipality. With 85,000 students and an overall growing population, the city struggles to provide enough space for housing and industry. Under Gevert's leadership, Ghent has rolled out forward-thinking mobility policies, including 51 hectares of new bike lanes, reducing car traffic and promoting green transportation. Converting the historic bank building we're in into Sogent's new offices, as well as the redevelopment of the Oude Dokken, the old docks, have been part of Gewert's responsibilities, while working on restoring and redeveloping the old maritime industrial area around Ghent's 3 oldest docks into a new waterfront residential area, including the demolition of the old Interbeton concrete plant. She has been working closely with Eddy Wille. This is Eddy Paul Henry Wille, a senior advisor at OVAM, the public waste agency of Flanders, and a brownfield negotiator for the Flemish government with VLAIO, the region's innovation and entrepreneurship agency. With a background in geology and human ecology, Wille has been a key figure in soil remediation in Belgium since 1991. He played a central role in building OVAM's soil remediation department and has held leadership positions in soil investigation, data management, and remediation actions. He authored the foundational 1999 Memorandum on Brownfield Redevelopment, which led to the Flemish Brownfield Covenant Law in 2007. Since then, he has negotiated over 50 brownfield projects and continues to advise the Flemish Brownfield Board. Wille also leads OVAM's work on enhanced landfill mining and has contributed to multiple EU projects on brownfield and landfill rehabilitation. In 2021, he co-authored the WHO Europe Planner's Guide, Protecting Health Through Urban Redevelopment of Contaminated Sites.
Investigation in order to find out, okay, is it really an option? For example, it's not over here, but a bit more to the north, you have a very large gypsum landfill. It's about 70 hectares. It's quite large. We have put solar panels on it, and I think they're producing about 15 or 16 megawatts on that landfill.
And this is Jeremy Hale, co-founder of the Advanced Botanical and Biomass Research Institute, ABRI, and Natural Rebound, LLC, and a member of Catalyst 2030, a United Nations-affiliated network advancing the Sustainable Development Goals. As a scholar practitioner and international consultant, he operates at the intersection of policy, research, and regenerative development, supporting indigenous and climate-impacted communities worldwide. Hale specializes in soil and biomass analysis and the remediation of contaminated environments through the phyto- and bioremediation strategies using native plant species. As part of the Drawdown Hemp team, finalists in the X Prize carbon removal competition, he helped map hemp's potential for carbon sequestration and ecological restoration. He is currently in Belgium to deepen his expertise in remediating heavily contaminated sites through scientific exchange with Eddy Wille and C-Biotech.
This is still contaminated.
And last but not least, Ingmar Nopens. A Belgian scientist with multiple degrees in bioscience engineering, he specializes in environmental technology and applied biological sciences. Since founding C-Biotech in the summer of 2022, he has served as its managing director. Transitioning from academia to the private sector, Nopens set out to turn scientific expertise into real-world impact, developing bio-based, sustainable and circular construction products while sequestering carbon and cleaning heavily PFOS polluted soils.
So C-Biotech is part of the Cordeel group, and Cordeel is a big construction group in Flanders in Belgium. We have C Energy working on, for example, making construction sites more sustainable, and that's why they we also have an innovation cell with different companies, and we are one of those. Within the company, we have the construction, we also have architects, we have the calculation units. The problem with this is that they're all different disciplines, and if you talk about bio-based circularity, sustainability, for those people, for many people, they have no clue what the difference is. And so it's all a big mix. So that's why I want to emphasize that this is really important. So 40% carbon footprint. Think the concrete example that I gave earlier, the cement, that's where a lot of this is going to. Energy, there's a lot of very long supply chains going all over the globe. That's something that is also problematic. And then the material usage, 50% of virgin materials are going there. Okay, so these numbers really struck me and also motivated me to put my shoulders under this story. But I think if we're going to replace all the concrete with wood, we will end up with a planet without trees. Let's say legislation that is also coming, but within our company we want to be also a kind of a driver. This is also an important, let's say, subsidy, name if you want to call it like that, or a tool to also get a reward of the negative carbon impact that you can create with these materials. The long supply chains, we really need to get rid of that. Yeah, we really need to try and make very local supply chains and grow your products as much as possible locally.
C-Biotech was founded in direct response to the Belgian PFOS scandal uncovered in 2021. During our visit with Managing Director Ingmar Nopens and co-founder Frederik Westrate, we discovered how deeply the company's mission is tied to the urgent need for industrial soil remediation. Their innovations range from durable traffic poles made from hemp composites to prefabricated building materials using fast-growing mycelium. Central to their approach is the idea of combining phytoremediation with the production of climate-relevant materials, offering a new model for how industries take responsibility after vacating contaminated sites. One of their most promising breakthroughs targets PFOS, part of the persistent and toxic family of pair- and polyfluoroalkyl substances. In partnership with the cannabis sector, C-Biotech developed an organic fertilizer called Hempurizer Plus, which accelerates the uptake of PFOS by up to 30 times. This process breaks down long-chain PFOS into short-chain PFAS, which are then absorbed by hemp plants, allowing for the cleanup of heavily contaminated soils within a single growing cycle. This solution is not only effective and scalable, it's also carbon negative and cuts the cost of traditional remediation by up to 80%. C-Biotech is now working to bring this knowledge into policy circles, advocating for its integration into EU law and beyond.
Thank you again for joining us at Her Many Voices Gaia Gossip. Remember, whatever you do for another, you do for yourself. For more information, head over to hermanyvoices.org to learn more about other programs and get involved. From all of us at Gaia Gossip and Her Many Voices Foundation, thank you, and until next time.